Welcome to Home's Room. Just like Homeroom, we start off our day getting together with our homies, swapping stories, even a little kiss and tell action. This podcast contains language not suitable for younger listeners, topics about sex and mental health. Discretion is advised. Our views are our own. Let class begin.
Welcome back to another episode of Home's Room, the Boss Babe series. I got another guest, podcast host, storyteller, Hotwife, and Boss Babe. Joining us today, the pineapple pinup herself. Welcome. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. Thank you for bringing me on.
Yeah, absolutely. This actually came about because your podcast was randomly suggested, and I listened to a few episodes and shot my shot because, like us, here you are putting yourself out there, but doing it and put more back into the world and create a safe and somewhat educational experience for others. And I loved that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to reach out.
Well, I appreciate you doing so. And I appreciate you thinking my podcast has some value.
Yeah. I think I listened to maybe an episode and a half and I was like, I like this a lot. And then I listened to the rest of whatever episode, and then I listened to a third episode, and I don't remember what it was exactly that you said, but it was just like one of those moments for me that was like serendipitous where I was like, you know what? Like, I feel like this would be a good person to be a guest. And then I listened to maybe a couple more episodes and I was like, yep, this is a thing. This is what's going to happen. We're going to interview. Okay. So.
Well, I appreciate you listening. Seriously. It's nice to know that there are people out there who are taking the time to sit down and spend time listening to me basically just ramble. Because, I mean, I know that what I'm doing is relevant and important to myself, but you don't always know how it's going to be captured by your audience. And if you're going to even capture an audience. So the fact that you took the time to and listen to somebody's suggestion, thank you, whoever suggested it, and just listen to it and found meaning or value in it I'm grateful.
Yeah. So this interview is a little bit different than normal. I've interviewed quite a few lifestylers, and it's like coming up with good questions is like my thing. Like if you know, you're a longtime listener, or if you've listened to any of my interviews before, you know, I like pride myself on like hitting people with a, ooh, that's a good question moment. And I've like done this so many times now that I'm like, oh man, I don't know what questions I would ask. So I opened it up to my listeners and people that I'm close with or that I've connected to through having done interviews with lifestylers. And I said, hey, if you guys have any questions, what questions would you ask? Because I got a guest coming on, and I think it would be, you know, a good way to get like the real relevant questions to people. So these questions are those questions. So straight from listeners. The first one that I'm gonna hit you with is, what dynamics do you look for in a potential partners, physical, genders, and then, you know, there's the people out there that consider themselves like the Queen of Spades thing, and you know, that kind of thing is what this question said. So what's your dynamic and what do you look for in potential partners?
My dynamic is I play a lot at parties. I don't do a lot of individual play unless I meet somebody at a party, so that I know that we have chemistry before we take it to something a little bit more intimate. So when I'm at a party, what I look for is somebody who engages with me, who spends a minute like talking. Not necessarily, but that's also completely untrue because I'm also the kind of person who doesn't need a lot of foreplay. So it's very hard for me to answer that particular question because my quote unquote taste or whatever it is not really in the moment. In the moment, I'm seeking pleasure. I'm seeking fun. I am seeking, and I think let's go the opposite direction. Things that I don't like. I don't like too much intensity, because in these moments, you're not going to get emotional intensity at a party. You're just not. And anybody who's striving to get emotional intensity feels phony.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not there for phony. I'm there for real interaction, real pleasure, real fun. And keeping it surface level is absolutely fine, because this isn't love connection.
Yeah. 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 I like that. I think that's a good answer. And I think that like shows what the number one underlying thing that I can say that I've learned about the lifestyle through interviews and through listening to podcasts and things like that is it's different for everybody. So there is no one answer. So everybody's answer is just as valid and right as the next person. So I like that.
Exactly.
So I know from listening to your podcast that like you fall into the hotwife category, and your husband plays a role and he wants to hear about those details. So how did that make you feel in the beginning? And, does he like the recordings? Does he like the, recount storytelling, pictures during or before, that kind of thing?
Yes. Okay, so in our particular case, my husband is a stag, which is cuckold, but without humiliation play. Because of the fact that my husband is a stag, he really does enjoy the buildup. He likes to anticipate. He likes for me to describe what it is that I'm going to go and do, what activities I hope that we're going to get up to. He likes to have the buildup to the actual event. And then he likes to watch. He likes to get videos of it. He likes, like, all of it is something that lends itself to his desire and his play. He can be very voyeuristic. He also is fine with me playing without him watching. He does like a video to recount and relive and hold on to that memory for a while so that it's just his kind of thing. And our dynamic is very, very good for us. It is exactly what we are looking for. Because we came to this together. So it wasn't just him looking for this outlet. And when my husband first suggested this, I was a little intimidated by it. I was a little intimidated by the thought that there might be something that he hasn't explored under the surface. And that was going to cause us to trip up and not be able to stay together. Because my main concern, I don't really care about the sex, and I don't really care about the lifestyle. I care that at the end of the day, I come home to my marriage.
Yeah.
I love the fact that at the end of the day, I come home to my person. And no matter what's happened, what's transpired, he reclaims me and we are us again.
Yeah.
And that's just enhancing it, if you will.
Yeah. So I like that. Like, I love that that's the way you put it. One of the very first interviews with the hotwife I did, that was her thing, like her big thing. And she was like, it doesn't matter whether their dynamic was more one-on-one meetups. And she was like, it doesn't matter whether this guy shows up or doesn't show up, because I'm still going home with my husband. And that's what matters. That's the important part. And I love that. I love that you hit that same note with the same amount of like excitement and
Emphasis.
exuberance. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Like I love that. That was awesome. So what are the limits, and how far can you explore like your kinks with another person, and what kind of boundaries and rules does your husband have?
My husband's rules are he never wants me to meet somebody one on one unless he's met them. We do not play with married people who are cheating.
Yeah.
Married people who are both in the lifestyle, that's fine. But married people who are, one doesn't know that they're in the lifestyle and the other one does, that's not for us, because we're trying to enhance our life, not make it more dramatic. I am not in for drama. My husband's not in for drama. And so when you get involved in a situation where one of the spouses is not aware that they're in the lifestyle, it can become a lot of very dramatic, very painful. And I don't really have time for that. So that's kind of the biggest hard and fast rule that we have. Other than that, we're flexible. And the most important thing is that we communicate. As long as we're communicating what it is that our expectations are, then anything goes.
Yeah. I like that. I think, again, it's all about communication. And I think that any relationship, regardless of whether you're in the lifestyle or, you're just starting out dating and, hanging out as friends, and realistically from, the time you start dating as a preteen, teen to, if you're in your 90s, like, it doesn't matter. Communication is like the foundation. And I think more people need to like understand that communication is not a bad thing, and letting somebody know your feelings or how it's going in your head or what things are tripping you up is important, not something that you have to keep inside. So I like
and
that.
Another thing is that with that thought, there's so much going on inside your head. Sometimes you need someone to help you filter it. And so taking it out of your head and giving it light and giving it a sounding board just makes what's going on in your head a little bit more digestible and stops the looping. Because the one thing I know from being, alive and human is that when you don't express your thoughts, they do tend to get looped in there, and they continue to race around and around and around, because you're trying to come up with some sort of solution that you may not be able to do on your own. But if you're communicating with your partner and you're taking the time, they're going to relieve a lot of those stresses that you have. They're going to tell you how they feel in return. And that takes away so much of the questioning, so much of the undigestible unknowing.
Yeah.
My thoughts.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think that's awesome. One of the like best parts about having a podcast is like you talk to a lot of different people, and me and my co-host specifically, one of the things that we always connect on is how we're both vocal processors, and like sometimes we just need to talk something out in order to feel better about it. And we when we do it, it's like after we are done recording, it's like, man, but I've talked to enough people that like after we recorded, they're like, I needed that. Like, I feel so much better. I have like light energy now compared to when I started this, and I was like kind of dreading it. And I'm so glad that we're here. So yeah. Speaking of podcasts, listening to your podcast, something came up and you described it a couple times, and I believe it's like a subtle ad maybe mixed in there that doesn't sound like an ad, but it kind of is. What is the ice cream cone you're talking about, and what does it do?
The ice cream cone is this tiny little, it's like, if you know the Hitachi wand, and any woman who does not know the Hitachi wand, go find out. But it's a miniature Hitachi wand. It's a different brand, but it's basically the same concept, but it's just that big instead of that big, It's more travel size. And the ice cream cone is, a lot of times when you are in situations, every single woman is different. Every single man is different. And sometimes all the spots are being hit and you're like, ha. And sometimes not all the spots are being hit. And so you need a little help, and there are certain women who actually can't orgasm merely internally.
Mhm.
And so having a vibrator clitorally will actually help enhance that for them. So I carry one because at the end of the day, that's what I'm there for. I'm
Yeah.
there for orgasms.
Yeah.
And fucking around and not being able to get all the way to the finish line is not really in the cards. I want what I want, otherwise I wouldn't be there.
Yeah. I love that. We are, like I said, before we jumped on, I told you I've done quite a few interviews with like sex educators and stuff like that. So like we are pro toys here. And one of the things I say all the time is, I don't know why guys are afraid of batteries, but don't be afraid of batteries. They're there to, it's there to enhance, not to take away. So as soon as you described what the ice cream cone is, as you say it here, I don't know why when I listened and I heard you talking about it, I couldn't figure out what the hell you were talking about. But now it's like, oh, duh. Yeah, I know it. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about from experience.
You know
There
the
you
exact
go.
shape.
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
the
Yeah,
exact
like
everything.
yeah, it's like, yep, it
Yeah.
does in fact look like an ice cream cone, and now I'm not going to be able to see it
And
as not an ice cream cone.
what's really funny is it's light blue and it also has like a waffle cone shape. Like it
Yeah.
has
Yep.
the texture of it is waffle cone on the bottom.
Yeah.
That's why my husband calls it the ice cream cone, like religiously, because it's got this like handle that's
Yeah.
is shaped and feels like a waffle cone. So it's
Yeah.
interesting.
That's what. Yep. I know exactly that. Like. Yep.
You know the exact toy.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. And the fact that it. Yeah. Yep. Maybe not. Maybe not the same color combo, but definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I know what you're talking about. So that's good. And I think that when it comes to toys specifically, bringing toys or knowing what you need, I think just shows a level of like, I don't want to say sophistication, but like that you know what you want and you know what you're there for. And I think that's like, I don't want to say beautiful, but like beautiful. So good on you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um,
That's one of the big things about the lifestyle, though. Going in, knowing what it is you're trying to get out of the lifestyle is where consent starts. If you don't know what you want, if you don't know what you're there for, you're going to have a harder time achieving your goals. And you're
Yeah.
going to say yes to a lot more stuff that you maybe didn't want to say yes to. So establishing not only couple goals, but also individual goals as to what you're hoping to gain from this lifestyle, because there's a lot to gain. Personally, I'm a larger woman.
mhm.
And so one of the things that I gain is a lot of self-confidence, I feel a lot less disappointed in my body than I used to. I used to have a lot of shame surrounding my shape and my size because I do not fit the standard swimsuit model scenario.
Mhm.
And so there's some thought in your head that this isn't going to work for you because you don't fit a stereotype. Well, let me just tell you, I understand what you're talking about, but I can tell you that you're probably wrong. For every cup of tea out there, there's somebody who likes to drink it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that the lifestyle has given me. The understanding that while I see flaws, they see something completely different, something beautiful and magical and worth spending time with. And that's true of everybody. So there's something beautiful and magical that somebody's going to see that you are discounting.
Yeah. I love that you said that. And it segues into like literally bullet pointed my next thing that I was going to say about your podcast. So I told you I bounced around and listened to a couple episodes, and I can tell you the exact moment that I was like, yep, I'm going to shoot my shot. Fucking A, you said I take up a king size bed every time I go to a party and I have every right to be there. Sexy isn't a size, it's a state of mind. Do you agree?
I do, wholeheartedly. It's, the thing is that my sex appeal does not come from being 36, 24, 36. It doesn't come from being in the cutest fashions. It comes from the fact that I know that my body and my brain, which I'm sorry, is the most sexy muscle anybody has, their
Mm-hmm.
brain. All of that is designed for pleasure. And because I am designed for pleasure, I deserve to go and get that pleasure. And in that getting of pleasure, I am also giving pleasure. And it is an exponential gift giving scenario. They're giving to me, I am giving to them, and it is constantly reverberating back on itself. There is something so incredibly liberating about being in the lifestyle and knowing that pleasure is not only a good thing, but a celebrated thing.
That's a market clip right there. Good job on that one.
Oh, thank you.
So, you know, with saying that, like that level of energy that you just brought is exactly why I was like, you know what, I definitely want to try and talk to this person because they seem like my kind of people. And, you know, the episodes I bounced around from like the beginning to like, you know, more recent episodes, that kind of thing. And I could see the level of confidence that you brought even from the beginning, but as not necessarily like your confidence grew, but just your ownership of that confidence. Like, it's okay to say this thing. I was confident enough to say it, but now I own that it's a confidence thing. And I love that. So, you know, taking us back to the beginning, what got you started doing the Pineapple Pinup podcast?
Well, I'm like you. I process verbally. I do a lot of writing as well. So I was suffering from a great deal of writer's block for a long time. Their words were just not coming to me. I would sit down and I would write literally nothing. And so I knew that I had all this stuff that I needed to get out and I needed to process. And since the writing was abandoning me ever so quaintly, I've always wanted to do a podcast, and I had approached people time after time to get into different types of podcasts, and it had never really worked out. So what I did was I said, you know what? I need to verbally process this thing that we've started doing. And I need to take the time to go through all of the emotions and all of the things that are going on and package them in a way that my brain can safely store. So it's not constantly running around in there. And since the writing wasn't happening and nobody I had approached was reliable enough to do a podcast with, I was like, I'm just going to do it myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this on and I'm going to see what happens. And if I crash and burn, oh, well, it was an experience. It was a moment that gave me creative license to be something bigger for a minute. But then it didn't crash and burn. And I kept doing it and I kept loving it and I kept loving it more every time I did it. And there were times when I didn't really feel like I had something something to say, but I kept on saying stuff because I really honestly believe that this is a topic that is so terribly misunderstood, especially in mainstream media, that giving a voice to somebody who's not critical of it, not judgmental of it, not trying to poke the holes in it, was, I felt, educational to people who had no idea what it was.
Yeah. Love. Like I said, that's exactly why I was like listening to episodes and said, yep, I want to talk to this person because that is 1,000% the product that you produced. And you know, as podcasters, I think we often forget that we are producing a product, even though it doesn't seem like a product and it's harder to sell than any other product. But
right.
I think
listen
that,
to me chat.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And I love that you had a just do it kind of attitude towards it. One of my favorite things that's come from this is I had a conversation with somebody who is a personal friend, and, you know, we were talking about life and waiting on things to happen or waiting on people to help you make things happen. And, you know, the moment of saying, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And that's what it's going to take. I just have to do it. And I think that with podcasting specifically, I think more than anything else, it's really hard to just do it, because not only are you putting yourself out there, you're telling your story, and it's hard to know whether it's going to be a thing that come back and bite you in the ass, or whether somebody's going to like connect with it and you're going to get a message that says, thank you for saying what you said. That just made my week, or that made me feel seen, or whatever. And there's no way to tell which side of that spectrum you're going to end up on. So again, like I love that bravery. That's awesome.
Thank you. I mean, one of the things that I have found doing this is how much it has resonated. Whether people are there for a little bit of stimulation. I used to have people who would reach out to me and say, oh, I was listening to your podcast on the way into work. And I was like, that's brave.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of what I'm doing is a little bit salacious, but at the same time, I also wanted to give people something, give them food for thought, give them a glimpse at what being a normal everyday person who just happens to like to do lifestyle things, what does that look like? And make it human.
Yeah. So I was listening to your podcast at work. And the fun part about it is like, I'm a like pseudo teacher, I guess, if you will. Like I work with, in a school, and over the summer I'm working as a like paint crew for the school. So like touching up and repainting things that need to be repainted. So like I get to just put my headphones on and listen to, whatever I'm listening to. And like I said, I was at work. So for those of you that don't know or couldn't tell by now, the Pineapple Pinup podcast is, I would call it or consider it a personal diary or a personal journal is what they are listed as in podcast speak. But it is an educational, sexy retelling, I guess, of events that happen for the Pineapple Pinup in the lifestyle. And sometimes it's, a little bit of information on the front end and then the account on the back end, or sometimes it's just like kind of the account. And I think that in itself is like a good educational, but also like fun way to like structure it. So, maybe if you listen to the right half before going into work, and then like it'll be the motivation to get you through the day to get back in the car and listen to the other half. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, no, I do know that my voice is unique in the way that I like to tell a story. Mm-hmm. But I also like to answer people's questions and give them something to maybe think on. That's my hope. Every single episode does not always turn out like that. Sometimes it's just like, and there was dick. A lot of dick. And that's about the extent of the story for that day. But sometimes it works out and it feels really good. Yeah. When you've sat down and you've recorded something and it's got a message behind it. Mm-hmm. And like, I just recently recorded with another podcast that I listened to that approached me as well. And
shout out Cuck My Life. I have another guest who is also on that show. Okay. So, yep, we are familiar with that. Is
Cuck My Life. Yeah. I was just, I think I recorded it yesterday, and it was one of those things where they do the opposite side of what I do, which is they tell the story from the husband's side. Mm-hmm. And that's been invaluable, because I listen to their podcast and then I come up with things that I'm trying to shout at them through my speaker system that, no, the answer to your question is this, because they have questions and I want to answer them. And so the fact that I got to go on there and actually have the conversation and not just use it as fodder for my own show, because that's what I did. I listened to their show and then I basically grafted off what they were saying and gave my answer.
Yeah.
But that kind of back and forth, that kind of educational understanding something from both sides is helping me, and it's helping my husband to communicate better, to hear what the other person is saying, because somebody outside of the emotional turmoil gave me some vocabulary.
Yeah. I love that. So, with that, like, emotional vocabulary and figuring out how to navigate your podcast space, you ended up on some top 10 lists, and I thought that was, super interesting. And that's actually, the suggestion didn't come from a person. The suggestion came from the algorithm telling me that, like, this is a podcast that's worth listening to. Check it out. So I clicked on it, and, I was like, okay. And it was right, believe it or not. So, with the, with reaching out and, creating this environment that's a safe space, that is welcoming because you have a good demeanor, you have a soft tone, and there's no, like, the harsh edges are kind of like shaved off pretty well as far as your episodes are structured. And I think that's, and no, like, that's definitely not because of lack of effort. That is definitely something that I assume you have crafted into being that way. What do you hope people walk away from after an episode?
Interest. I hope they walk away with interest. I hope they walk away with interest in introspection, or interest in finding out a little bit more about what their desires are. Interest in doing some more diving.
Yeah.
Because one thing about the lifestyle is people fantasize a lot, but fantasies don't tend to get to the emotions of why you're fantasizing. They tend to just be very surface, but those surface things are standing above something very, very deep. And if it just for a minute, somebody takes a look at their fantasy and says, but why do I feel like this? Why is this something that gives me desire? Why is this something that makes me feel horny? And it leads them to try to figure out what it is that their brain is saving them from. I think that is the one thing I hope everybody gets, a little bit of clarity into who they are and why they like what they like. And then they can enjoy it unapologetically. Because if they have that introspection, if they have that, I understand where this came from, and it's okay for me to really, because the one thing I never want is, I don't want your fantasies to give you shame. I want your fantasies to be something that is like letting your mind do what your mind needs to do. Because fantasies they're not real unless you make them real. So if you're digging down, trying to find out why, and you're taking the shame away from it, it's going to make things so much more enjoyable. It's going to make everything in your life so much more enjoyable, because living without that shame, living without that guilt, is going to make you happier. It just is.
Yeah. I think, we here like to say, that we're a no gatekeeper and a shame-free, judgment-free environment. And I think that message is what resonates. And I love talking to sex educators for that reason, because ultimately, like, there's enough reason to be displeased with yourself that society pushes on you, that you don't need to be displeased with yourself because of what you in yourself want. Like, that's exactly. Not like, you don't need that. Let that go. That's your brain said, hey, this is hot, accept that it's okay to think it's hot. Yeah.
Yeah. And if there's question, I mean, my thing is my first few, a lot of my beginning episodes were about where was the drive coming from? Where was the desire to do this coming from? Especially in my husband or in myself. Where was that coming from? And being able to have the conversations of, okay, so you were cheated on and now you're so afraid of that you've turned it into a fantasy and now it's become a kink. Okay, that makes sense. And now that we know that it's because you had this fear, we know how to delicately step into this world, knowing that both of us are communicating about why. Both of us understand where it's coming from. So there's no fear here that we're going to step on a landmine, if you will.
Yeah.
That kind of internal knowledge, that kind of breakdown, if you trail it all the way back, can help you discover things about yourself that are so much easier to break down and make palatable in your adult self than it ever would be in your younger self. And giving yourself the opportunity to work through those traumas so that you can fully enjoy the kink you're into, I'm all for it.
Yeah. So, with that communication, do you think, one, it seems like more men are bringing up the lifestyle, and two, do you think women should bring up the lifestyle more to their partners and friends, as in like if it's something that like fantasy shaming that we were just talking about, if it's something that they're curious about, should they be bringing those comments and conversations up to not only their partners but also their friends to maybe realize that, oh, somebody else has that thought too?
Of course. But can I say something? I'm going to be frank here.
Yeah.
Women are busy. Women are freaking busy. Okay. Most of us are handling a job. Most of us are handling children and a marriage and housework. And we got to get the dog to the vet and we've got to get the car serviced and we're freaking busy. So a lot of times we're just grateful when we have 2 seconds to even think about it, to even think about what's going on, to even think about what we desire. Okay. Women are probably not right now going to be the ones to start this conversation. But I will tell you that if this is a conversation that you want to get started, the first thing you need to do is realize mentally where the woman in your life is. Is she buried under 16 layers of to-do list? And if she is she going to hear what you're saying as an opportunity to cut free, or is she going to hear it as one more responsibility we're adding to that 16 layers of to-do list? So if you really want to have this conversation, if you really want to get her in a place where she can fully think about and explore what it is you're offering to her, because this is definitely a gift, then just for a minute, maybe take her out of that constant to-do list. Take her out of that moment. Put her someplace where her mind isn't whirling around what she's not getting taken care of right now. And that is just something that I don't know if we think enough about. Because yes, while it is great for women to bring up the lifestyle, I'm absolutely on board with that. But I know from my own personal experience, I probably wasn't going to do it because I was very stressed out about every single day things. So the fact that my husband brought this to me and then kept bringing it to me helped me immensely get to the point where it was something I could think about, something I could consider.
Yeah, that is good advice. And that's, like I said, we open these questions up to listeners. So that's, I'm sure exactly what somebody was trying to figure out. So thank you for that. Then the next one is one that I'm super curious about what your answer will be, because you've kind of already talked about it a little bit, and I don't know that I've specifically like heard it mentioned on your podcast necessarily, but trust is a big part of the lifestyle. So what are some of the biggest things that go into the trust factor for you, and like what advice would you give?
Okay. For me, the trust factor is just straight brutal honesty with my husband. I leave nothing hidden in the shadows. I tell him exactly what it is. And sometimes what I'm saying to him is not the most PC thing or the most appropriate thing, but he got me here. He wants me here. He's going to have to listen to me download about it. Like the time that somebody fingered my belly button. Sorry, that's a story on my podcast. Somebody literally finger fucked my belly button. And it was the oddest thing to me. And I was like, and I don't have a problem with people having kinks. My problem is that I never consented to that.
Yeah.
And that was not something that I found it very, very gross. And so for me, talking to my husband about it, he's going to have to get the brutal honesty about what that moment felt like to me, so that he understands that this was something that that took me out of my moment, took me out of my play, and made me like cringy. So having that brutal honesty where I'm telling him exactly what it was like, exactly what I felt like, exactly how I was coping with it, that's all stuff that he needs to know, because if anything happens in the future, he understands. So he can also help reel me back in, kind of thing. So I think that's the trust part. The trust part is that he will tell me and I will tell him. I will say this. Don't walk in with expectations of your partner. Okay? If you walk in with expectations of how your partner is going to behave or how your partner is going to react, and then they don't do it, and you're disappointed by that, and you happen to mention it, that sounds like judgment. Okay? So I'll give you an example of this. A gentleman that came to a party was telling us that he went to a party with a girl, and he was there with a woman, and he had gone to this party with this other woman that he had been dating at the time, and she did, quote unquote, too much. And as a woman in the lifestyle, I'm sorry, what is too much? Where is the boundary? How are we supposed to know the boundary unless you've predefined it before we get there? But if you walk in with expectations that she's only going to be with one other gentleman, why are you there? You know? So if you walk in with expectations and you have expectations that they're going to do something and they don't do it the way you want them to do it, and then you judge them for that, that's what I like to call slut shaming. And it's not okay. It is never okay to make somebody feel bad about a desire that they fulfilled, whether it was their own or yours. It's not okay to make them feel bad. It's just not.
Yeah. I like that. That is really good advice. So kind of in the same vein, what's something you wish you could share with other women about the lifestyle, especially those like curious about it or just getting started?
It's not your job to worry about what you look like. It's really not. It's your job to worry about making sure you get the maximum amount of pleasure. It's your job to know what you're looking for and go get it. It is never your job to worry about how tight your ass is. Sorry, it's just not your that's not your problem. Because I can guarantee you that if you are there and you are feeling yourself, somebody is going to get is going to want to take a sip of that tea. It just is. It's just the truth. And you worrying about something that you cannot change in the moment, and you probably wouldn't change unless you were presented with this moment again. Don't worry about it. Don't take on that stress. You don't need to. You just need to be there, body, mind, and soul, and be present and enjoy it and embrace it, because for crying out loud, it's why you're there.
Yeah. Solid advice. There you go, ladies. That especially the one that asked that question. What's the craziest thing you've been asked about your experience?
Oh, my goodness. I do not know. I mean, a lot of people wonder how many people I sleep with, at a party.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be as frank with you as I am with them. I don't know. I wasn't there to take count.
Yeah.
If somebody was looking to take my body count, they should have started with Clicker a long ass time ago. I don't worry about the number of people I'm fucking. I actually would be more interested in the number of orgasms I'm having.
Yeah.
Which is a lot. And I mean,
I
wouldn't even want to quantify that.
Yeah. That's definitely of the things to count, body count is not as important as orgasm count. And I think that is definitely one of those things that as soon as you said it, it made my brain go, that makes more sense to keep track of. Because if the body count is far greater than the orgasm count, then it seems like the math isn't mathing.
Doing something wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
The math is not mathing.
Yeah. So let's change that and start worrying about orgasm count, people. I think that's it.
Exactly.
There you go.
And the nice thing is I actually really enjoy soul snatching, which is basically getting a guy to come, even though he's fighting it with everything he's got, and just snatching his soul. That to me is probably the most fun thing to do.
I imagine that feels empowering.
It is. It's great. And I mean, it's amazing because you're nothing puts you more in your power than watching it erode from somebody else.
Yeah. So, when it comes to the lifestyle and the dynamic, and you said it before, towards the beginning of the episode when we were talking about the dynamic that you and your husband share, what does the reconnecting or reclaiming process look like with your partner?
It depends. It depends on how whether it was a date, whether it was a party, whether it was, it just depends. Sometimes if it was a very long night at the party, reclaiming is him pulling my exhausted body into his body and just holding me while I sleep. Sometimes it is cleaning up a mess that was made on me and then him taking his turn. Sometimes it is just straight talk about what happened at whatever event we were at while he is fucking me, so that way he can relive it in his mind and go through the emotions and have the actual physical release. It is a lot of different things, and it is whatever we need at the time. And I know that a lot of what happens after, when he's reclaiming me, has to do with where I am physically, because he understands that I'm the one who's taking a physical toll with these endeavors, because I'm the one who's actually doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
So
I think again, it just goes to illustrate that like the process is different for everybody, and
And it's not a set script.
yeah,
It's really not. It's one of those things where it's everyday, it's life. And when something is thrown at you in your everyday life, how you react to it depends on the day,
yeah.
depends
Uh,
on what you're going through.
so with all of the stuff that we kind of talked about, we're coming towards the end of this. If I gave you the next 4 or 5 minutes, would you be able to recreate a little bit of what happens on your podcast? Tell us a story.
Sure.
Awesome.
Sure. Okay. So I have a very, very, I'll go way back. I had a bull, and his name is Mike, and he is adorable. I love him. He's not super tall, but he was very good positioning for me. Like our heights matched up pretty well. And some of the most fun that we had was I rented a hotel room and he met me there after work. And he and I were meeting without my husband. And he wanted to, my husband, of course, needs something from us to include him in the activities. So we took video, and the video we shot just happened to be a lot of point of view video, where we were focused on what we were watching. And it's ended up being some of the sexiest video I've pulled together. I love POV video when it comes to these intimate moments, because it puts you right there in the moment with the person, and you're not distracted by trying to get the right shot. You're watching the thing that you would be watching anyway happen. So that particular time was so much fun, and the video became a part of the actual play, and it became part of the actual anticipation that we were building. And it was, the crescendos were much higher because of the fact that we were taking this on in two different mediums, both physically and visually through a screen, which has its own set of deep internal, like you watch porn on a screen, so you have some very visceral reactions to seeing stuff like that on a screen. And because you have that visceral reaction and you have that physical outlet, it was all very climactic and super soggy, because I am without a doubt a squirter. And they're catching that moment on screen is also ridiculously funny because of the reaction you get from it happening. It's hilarious. And I highly recommend that if you are a squirter, definitely get it on film, because watching their face when it happens, it ranges from like wonderment to sheer horror. It runs the gamut. It's hilarious. But that's also something that people should be aware of. Squirt is not, you're not being peed on. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing. It's coming from a completely different place, despite the fact that they're very next door neighbors. It's different. But anyway, that one was one of those times where it was very hot and very passionate and very, and there was a lot to take home to my husband. There was a lot of video, and there was a lot of pictures, and there was a lot of, and that felt to me like I was including my husband in this activity that was so outside of him, but so inclusive of him.
Yeah. I love that. That's one of those, like, some couples come home and they say, "Hey babe, how was your day?" And then you show them pictures of like the thing that you did at work that was like a proud moment. And then some couples come home and they share POV videos, and it's just what it is. I love that. Thank you for telling that story. And as clearly a veteran podcaster, you came in right at 4 minutes and like 30 seconds. So good job.
Thank you.
You hit that mark on the head. Just saying, feather in the podcaster cap there. Um,
Thank you.
as we come to the end, I do or this or that, but I want to give you another quick second to give us the elevator pitch for the Pineapple
Pinup, the Hotwife Life podcast.
Yeah.
The Pineapple Pinup, the Hotwife Life podcast is a journey through the life of a BBW hotwife and the adventures and crazy wild things that I get up to. It's me sharing real stories, real emotions, real facts.
Love it. So go check that out. But before you do that, let's listen to the this or that. This first one, I think you kind of said it at the beginning, and I don't remember whether you said one or the other. I know you had a caveat, but I don't know if you specifically said you enjoy one or the other more. But married or single? So like a married partner,
Married.
or okay. So you'd rather find a partner that is married or a single guy?
No, actually, single. I'm taking it back. I'm going with single. I'm going with single. Yeah, single.
All right. Travel to meet with couples or partners, or a local club or group that you just have as a go-to?
Can I have both? I mean, I love traveling for Dick. Trust me, I love traveling for Dick. But I also like the comfort of being able to go home and sleep in my own bed. I like both of those things.
Yeah. That's fair. I feel like both is kind of the way you live in general, right? So like I don't know if in this hypothetical world we're making you live in right now. I think you're gonna come out ahead. Okay. Parties every weekend or a few quality events every few months?
Parties every weekend.
Yeah. That was a surprising. Yeah. I figured you were going to go with like, those hard to plan, but really, really like fun events.
Here's the thing. The quality comes from how you approach it. I can bring quality wherever I go because I love it. I love the sexy atmosphere. And I can usually turn a party that's, slap together into something quality just by my attitude towards it.
Yeah, that is spoken like a true boss babe. That's why I don't know if you like see any of the things out there, but there's definitely a bright spot in the world, especially right now, of women taking up space and owning it. And what we do in the summer on the show is interview boss babes, women that are doing exactly that and sharing a little bit of, the reach that I have, or, even just if it's a cathartic experience to come on and feel supported by somebody you don't know and, may never see again, but just the same, feeling like what you're doing matters. And that's what the Boss Babe series is about. So thank you for coming on and talking to us. Where can people find you / your podcast?
I'm on Spotify and Apple Music, and I believe I'm on iHeartRadio. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, basically. If you can't find it there, if you want to reach out to me, I'm at pineapplepinuppod@gmail.com or pineapplepinup@pineapplepinuppod for Instagram. You can reach out to me and let me know where it is you would like me to RSS it to, and I will definitely give it a try.
There you go. And that information will be linked below in the show notes. So, with that, bye.
Bye.
The bell is about to ring. If you want to drop us a voice message or simply ask a question, you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes below. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people find us. Theme music by Kinsey. More music available on Spotify. Remember, every day is a class. Go learn something.